Wounded by Love, the Life and Wisdom of Elder Porphyrios. A child's upbringing commences at the moment of its conception. The embryo hears and feels in its mother's womb. Yes, it hears and it sees with its mother's eyes. It is aware of her movements and her emotions, even though its mind has not yet developed. If the mother's face darkens, it darkens too. If the mother is irritated, then it becomes irritated also. Whatever the mother experiences, sorrow, pain, fear, anxiety, etc., is also experienced by the embryo. If the mother doesn't want the child, if she doesn't love it, then the embryo senses this and traumas are created in its little soul that accompanies it all its life. The opposite occurs through the mother's holy emotions. When she is filled with joy, peace, and love for the embryo, she transmits these things to it mystically, just as happens to children that have been born. For this reason, a mother must pray a lot during her pregnancy and love the child growing within her, caressing her abdomen, reading psalms, singing hymns, and living a holy life. This is also for her own benefit. But if she makes sacrifices for the sake of the embryo, so that the child will become more holy and will acquire from the very outset holy foundations. Do you see how delicate a matter it is for a woman to go through a pregnancy? Such a responsibility and such an honor. I'll tell you something about other animate and non-rational beings, and you will understand what I mean. In America, the following experiment was carried out. In two identical rooms, which were kept at exactly the same temperature, flowers were planted in identical soil and watered in exactly the same way. There was, however, one difference. In the one room, gentle, soothing music was played, and the result, the flowers in that room displayed an enormous difference in relation to the flowers in the other room. They had a quite different vitality, their colors were more attractive, and they grew incomparably better. What saves and makes for good children is the life of the parents in the home. The parents need to devote themselves to the love of God. They need to become saints in their relation to their children through their mildness, patience, and love. They need to make a new start every day with a fresh outlook, renewed enthusiasm, and love for their children. And the joy that will come to them, the holiness that will visit them, will shower grace on their children. Generally, the parents are to blame for the bad behavior of the children, and their behavior is not improved by reprimands, disciplining, or strictness. If the parents do not pursue a life of holiness, and if they don't engage in spiritual struggle, they will make great mistakes and transmit the faults that they have within them. If the parents do not live a holy life and do not display love towards each other, the devil torments the parents with the reactions of the children. Love, harmony, and understanding between the parents are what are required for the children. This provides a great sense of security and certainty. The behavior of the children is directly related to the state of the parents. When the children are hurt by the bad behavior of the parents towards each other, they lose the strength and desire to progress in their lives. Their lives are constructed shoddily, and the edifice of their soul is in constant danger of collapsing. Let me give you two examples. Two sisters came to see me. One of them had gone through some very distressing experiences, and they asked me what was the cause of them. I answered them, "It's because of your home. It stems from your parents." And as I looked at the girl, I said, "These are things you've inherited from your mother." "But," she said, "my parents are such perfect people. They are Christians. They go to confession. They receive communion, and we had a religious upbringing. Unless it is religion that is to blame." I said to them, "I don't believe a word of all that you are telling me. I see one thing only, that is that your parents don't live with joy of Christ." On hearing this, the other girl said, "Listen, Maria, the father's quite right. Our parents go to confession and receive Holy Communion, but did we ever have any peace at home? Our father was constantly complaining about our mother, and every day either the one refused to sit at the table, or the other refused to go out somewhere together. So you see, what the father is saying is true. What's your father's name? I asked her. She told me. What's your mother's name? She told me. Well, I said, the feelings you've got inside you towards your mother are not good at all. You see, the moment she told me her father's name, I saw his soul. And the moment she told me her mother's name, I saw her mother, and I saw the way her daughter looked at her. Another day, our mother came to visit me with one of her daughters. She was very distressed and broke down in tears. What's the matter? I asked. I'm in total despair over my older daughter. She threw her husband out of the house and deceived us all with a pack of lies. What kind of lies? I inquired. She threw her husband out of the house ages ago, and she didn't tell us anything. We would ask on the phone, how is Stelios doing? And she would reply, oh, he's fine. He's just gone out to buy a newspaper. Each time she would think of some new excuses so that we wouldn't suspect anything. And this went on for 2 whole years. A few days ago we learnt the truth from Stelios himself when we bumped into him by chance. So I said to her, the fault's your own. It's you that's to blame. You and your husband, but you most of all. What do you mean? She said indignantly. I love my children to the point that I was never out of the kitchen. I had no life of my own at all. I took them to church, and I was always telling them the right way to do things. How can you say that I'm to blame? I turned to her other daughter who was with her and asked, what do you think about the matter? The father's right, Mum, she said. We never ever enjoyed a single day when you went quarrelling with Dad. Do you see then how I'm right? It is you that are to blame. You traumatize the children. They are not to blame, but they are suffering the consequences. A psychological state is created in a child as a result of its parents that accompanies it throughout its life. Its latter behavior and its relationships with others are directly connected with the experiences that it carries with it from its childhood years. The child grows up and develops, but at the bottom it does not change. This is manifested even in the smallest expressions. For example, you get a craving for food and want to eat. You take something and eat it. Then you see something else and you want that. You feel hungry and think that if you don't eat it, you'll feel faint and you'll start to tremble. You are afraid you'll lose weight. This is a psychological state that has its explanation. Perhaps you never knew your father or your mother, and you feel deprived and hungry, poor and weak, and this psychological reality is expressed by way of reflex as a weakness of the body. A large part of the responsibility of a person's spiritual state lies with the family. For children to be released from their various inner problems, it is not enough for them to receive good advice or to be compelled by force, nor do logical arguments or threats do any good. These things rather make things worse. The solution is to be found through the sanctification of the parents. Become saints, and you will have no problems with your children. The sanctity of their parents releases the children from their problems. Children want to have saintly people at their side, people with lots of love who will neither intimidate them nor lecture them, but who will provide a saintly example and pray for them. Parents, especially the mother, often cause hurt to a child for some act of misbehavior by scolding it excessively. The child is then wounded. Even if you don't scold the child outwardly, but bristle with anger inwardly, or look fierce at the child understands. The child believes that its mother doesn't love it and asks, "Do you love me, Mummy?" The mother answers, "Yes, dear," but the child is not convinced. It has been wounded. The mother loves it. She'll caress it later, but the child will pull its head away. It refuses to be caressed, regarding this as hypocrisy because it has been wounded. Overprotectiveness leaves children immature. Another thing that harms children is overprotectiveness, that is, excessive care or excessive anxiety and worry on the part of the parents. A mother used to complain to me that her 5-year-old child was disobedient. "It's your fault," I told her, but she didn't understand. Once I went for a walk by the seaside, with his mother along with the child. The little boy let go of his mother's hand and ran towards the sea. There was a little sand dune there, and the sea came in directly behind it. The mother immediately reacted with anxiety, was about to shout out and run towards the boy, who was standing on top of the dune with outstretched arms, trying to keep his balance. I calmed her down and told her to turn her back on the boy, while I kept an eye on him. When the boy despaired of provoking his mother's attention and causing her to panic and scream as usual, he calmly climbed down and walked towards us. That was the end of it. Then the mother understood what I meant. Another mother used to complain that her little boy wouldn't eat all his food, especially his yogurt. The little one was about 3 years old and tormented his mother every day. I said to her, "What you should do is this. Empty the refrigerator completely and then fill it with some yogurt. When lunchtime comes, you'll give Peter his yogurt. He'll refuse to eat it. In the evening, you'll give him it again, and the same the next day. In the end, we'll get hungry and we'll try some. He'll throw a tantrum, but you'll just put up with it. Thereafter, he'll eat it quite happily." That's just what happened, and yogurt became Peter's favorite food. These things aren't difficult, but many mothers are unable to do them, and the result is that they give their children a very bad upbringing. Mothers who are always standing over their children and pressurizing them, that is, overprotecting them, have failed in their task. You need to leave the children alone to take an interest in its own progress. Then you will succeed. When you are always standing over them, the children react. They become lethargic and weak-willed, and generally are unsuccessful in life. This is a kind of overprotectiveness that leaves the children immature. A few days ago, a mother came here in a state of despair because of her son's repeated failures in the university entrance exams. He had been an excellent pupil in elementary school and all the way through high school, but in the end he failed repeatedly and showed indifference and had strange reactions. "It's your fault," I said to the mother. "Educated women through you are. How else did you expect the boy to react? Pressure, pressure, pressure all these years. Make sure you're the top of the class. Don't let us down. Get yourself an important position in society. Now he's thrown in the towel. He doesn't want anything. Stop this pressure and overprotection, and you'll see that the boy will regain his equilibrium. He'll make progress once you let him be."